topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Songwriter Show. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarantos. I'm a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are very important to me, and that's why I'm thrilled to host this show for you every Tuesday night. I believe that every song is a story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio and has listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in America. The station is also licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's first guest is Phil Johnson. Phil is a man who gets mistaken for a woman, but only by those not paying attention. That revelation kicks off a battle for self-awareness where comedy and music are the weapons of choice. It's a battle that has taken Phil to such esteemed festivals as the Edinburgh Fringe and Sundance Film Festivals and the top 8 finals of the World Series of Comedy. Welcome to the show, Phil. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So you're very welcome, my friend. And you have a very unique history. What got you going down this path?
It was totally an accident, really. It was I had split up with some of the band members that I was playing with, and we were just a serious rock band, and all I ever wanted to be was a guitar player in a rock band. And I'd split up with the guys I was playing with, and I was just dumping stuff onto a 4-track. That's how long ago this was. And I wrote a couple of goofy songs that I figured would be B-sides or something like that. And then I ended up playing them for some musician friends at a music conference I was at in Las Vegas with a mentor. And everybody was like, that's the stuff that you should be doing. And I was like, no, those are B-sides. Those are garbage songs. And they were like, no, they're hilarious. We can't get them out of our minds. And so they encouraged me to go in that sort of comedy direction. And then I got invited to do a comedy music show in San Francisco at a place called the Hyena Theater that's there no longer. And the MC of that show saw my act, saw these 2 or 3 goofy songs that I had written, and invited me to come play guitar for her show, which she was, I think, 73 years old at the time. And one of her bits as a comedian was throwing lingerie at the audience while I played Anarchy in the UK by the Sex Pistols. It was hilarious. And so she started taking me around to comedy shows and to the Edinburgh Fringe, in fact, as you mentioned, that credit there. And then it snowballed from there. And all of a sudden I found myself playing comedy shows and realizing that was just a new path that I had taken. And it opened up a whole bunch of new venues for me that I didn't have access to previously as a serious musician. And so it was great. And then just snowballed from there. So the whole thing was a total accident.
Wow. Well, they say there are no accidents. So it seems like a very as an aside, I mean, I grew up loving like Weird Al Yankovic and,
sure.
There's all these parodies on the radio. And I myself have thought so many times, or people rate your songs and like, what is this, a comedy? Like, this is terrible, So I've thought about it all the time. And there is definitely an art to it. And it's such a unique thing to be able to do and do well. And I commend you for it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's a tricky one. It's difficult. I find it more difficult than standard songwriting, except for the fact that standard songwriting, I find that I have a very difficult time taking anything too seriously enough to be a quote unquote serious songwriter. So I was kind of leaned in a humorous direction anyway. And then when I just sort of gave myself permission to go full comedy, then that became a new challenge. But it is a very challenging art form.
Yeah, absolutely. And, comedy, everyone loves comedy, but it's such a fragile thing now because you're always on the edge between being hilarious or inappropriate. How do you deal with that, especially in your music? Because if someone's at a comedy show and there's 20, 50, 100 people there, something that you put out is going to be there forever and hit every corner of the world. and once you put it out, you can't take it back. So how do you balance that?
You really have to I have to write the things that I think are funny, and then I will put them in front of an audience. And if nobody agrees, then it doesn't stay in the act. If some of the people agree, then most of the time it's going to stay in the act. I never feel like there are a lot of comedians out there who are like, oh, I got to kill every time in every room for any audience ever. And I don't feel like that. I feel like I'm out there trying to find the people that like what I do. And if everybody doesn't like what I do, so be it. That's fine. I don't need everybody, And so I do things. There are people that will walk out of my shows avoiding my gaze and looking very uncomfortable. And then there are other people who will walk up to me and go, that was the greatest show I've ever seen. You were fantastic. I can't believe this. This is amazing. You were wonderful. And those are the people that I want. And everybody else, to each their own. Comedy is a very, very subjective art. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely is. How do you balance that if someone is offended? How seriously do you take it?
Oh, I don't take it very seriously at all if somebody is offended because I work here. My home base is the San Francisco Bay Area, which is the world headquarters for offended. And I know I'm going to get myself in trouble, and I have absolutely gotten myself in trouble at plenty of gigs. And so when usually people will just kind of walk out and avoid you if they're offended. Sometimes they'll come up and say something, and I just go, okay, that's fine. That's your opinion. I have a different opinion on the matter, and that's fine. There's very few jokes that I've ever taken out of the show because they offended somebody. If I take them out of the show, it's because they didn't work with, this arbitrary percentage of the audience that I have in my head. It's really a feeling thing.
Yeah. How do you decide if a joke stays or goes? Do you run it by somebody other than you? Do you try it at a live show?
Yeah, it's always at live shows. I mean, when I write, I have I think I'm up to about a 60 or 70%, average of if it looks funny to me on the page and I work it out in rehearsals, then it's probably going to be funny on stage. And that percentage gets a little bit higher every year. So I always have to go take it out on shows to try them out. I do run some of the stuff by my girlfriend, but she and I have a very different sense of humor at times. And so oftentimes she'll say, no, don't do that on stage. That's terrible. And then I go do it on stage and it does just fine. So
I was just going to say, the opposite, right?
Yeah, exactly. Happens all the time.
Yeah. So, a couple of questions for you. Lexi is asking, how do you get mistaken for a woman? Is that just a comedic thing, or is there some feature or long hair or something?
Yes, I have very long hair, and I'm very regularly mistaken for a woman from the back. And actually, I was mistaken for a woman from the front recently, which that was an entirely new twist of the story.
That is funny. How often do you write songs, comedy, anything? Do you try to write daily, weekly, monthly?
I try to write every day as much as I can. For the last few months, I've been doing this daily project called the 30-Second Song Project, where every day a new short song goes out on the social media channels. And so I've got 300 of those already. That's going to go through the end of March. So I have something that is forcing me to write every day, whether it's new stand-up or new songs or a novel that I've gotten its third draft that's unfinished yet. So I'm writing something every day for at least 2 or 3 hours.
So another question for you, 2 more questions, but I'm going to take Janilla first. What does your girlfriend say when you do it on stage and she says not to? Do you sleep on the couch at night or what?
No. She doesn't make me sleep on the couch anymore. It's pretty rare. But she will. She doesn't come to a lot of shows, so frankly, I have to tell her afterward. I'll text her right after the show and go, "Yeah, that joke you said didn't work. It worked. Totally worked." And then there'll be other times where I go, "Nah, you were right. That one didn't work." So just depends. Yeah.
All right. And then Chuck is asking, basically, do you consider yourself a musician or a comedian?
That's a good question. One. Yeah. I think now if I had to pick one, I might lean towards comedian, but and I've been doing comedy for 15 years now, and it really took me a long time to lean into that as a job title. I think at heart, I'm still a musician because music is so important to me. from the age of 8 all the way through college and playing in bands. I have a degree in jazz, so in my heart, I'm a musician, but as my job, I'm a comedian. But I really do. I think I lean towards comedian these days.
Okay. And do you put out CDs?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And are they all comedy based? Do you ever put out a real song, or is it just all, every single song has a comedic element to it?
Once a year or so, I'll release a single that is just a straight piece of music. And usually it's got to be a story or a song concept that occurs to me that I don't want to destroy with making it funny. I wrote a song called Kissing in the Rain, which is a serious song about, it's an upbeat song. It's a song that I wrote for my girlfriend about sticking together through some really terrible things and her still hanging out and being with me, and that wasn't something that I wanted to destroy with a joke halfway through. Because she hates when I do that. And so about once a year or so, I will put out a single that is just a straight piece of music. And usually it's something I'm very, very proud of and nobody listens to it.
Yeah. When you put your songs together, do you do lyrics first? Do you do music first? What's your process?
For the comedy stuff particularly, I have to have a concept in mind first. Of some sort for the lyrics. I like to write from the music first. That's where, when I was just a guitar player in a rock band, that's what I would do is I would just write the riffs and put the song together and then dump it on the singer I had and go, you figure it out. And then when I started having to be a lyricist as well, it really came down to, no, I have to have a story or a concept in mind so that I know what the music is going to sound like to tell that story. So I generally start with the lyrics now.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, we try to protect each other, and I try to ask every guest about this, but any scams you want to warn us about from your area or something you've fallen for?
Oh, gosh. I try not to fall for a lot of stuff. I haven't seen, not being tapped into the hardcore songwriting community. I miss a lot of those scams these days that I remember back from, here's some award show or something and, or whatever it is. And it sounds like a weirdo kind of, they're just going to take your money type of thing. I did have, actually, the reason that comes to mind, I had some award show about 6 months ago that was like, they wanted me to pay to be an MC of their music awards show. And I was like, no, you pay me to be the MC of your music awards show. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it was one of those, it's a good exposure type of thing. Anything that promises good exposure probably isn't. So I stay away from those. And in the comedy world, it's really just looking out for yourself and making sure that you get paid at the end of the night. We're real good about sharing, shady booking agents and guys that run shows and don't pay and things like that. That gets around the comedy community very, very quickly. So we squash that stuff pretty quick.
Good for you. How do you guys do that? Is there a website? Because certainly you can't talk to every single comedian out there. How do you guys do that?
For as many comedians as there are in this country and around the world, it's a pretty tight-knit group. We all meet each other eventually. And so just like for the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a Facebook group that all the San Francisco Bay Area comics are part of. So word will go out there. And we're also connected to the local groups in Denver and Chicago and LA and places like that. So the word starts to filter out pretty quickly if somebody's doing something weird.
The one thing, I'm not touring currently, but if I ever do, and especially if I make it, the one thing that I don't know if you've been exposed to this, but I don't remember what famous band. There was a famous band that had a comedian open for them instead of a band, and I said, I'm doing that. If I ever tour on, at least a medium level on up, I go, I'm going to have a comedian open for me because I think it's a great idea. Have you heard of anything like that? Have you done anything like that?
That was really an old school kind of thing that happened a lot in the 60s and 70s. Like, there'd be comics that would go out and open for Gladys Knight and the Pips or Wayne Newton or, the Temptations and things like that. Comedians, those are usually good paid gigs. Because you're only going to do maybe 10 or 15 minutes in front of this act. So they're an interesting one to do, but they're generally not very fun gigs because a music audience is there to specifically see that artist, or at least some music that sounds like that artist from an opening act or something like that. Usually it's surprise comedy to them, and surprise comedy never works unless you've got a really open-minded audience. I've done MC work as a comedian at like heavy metal festivals and things like that, and it's always a real adventure just to try and keep the audience's attention, because comedy is so much more it needs really, really focused attention from the audience, and oftentimes in a music situation you just don't have that. Music starts to fall to the background a little bit until the headliner comes on.
See, that's interesting. I never would have thought that. I thought it'd be a great unique idea and such a good fit for both sides.
It can be. It really depends on, like, if the headline musician were to go out and say, hey, I brought you on stage and say, hey, I brought you a friend of mine to open the show. He's a comedian and you're really going to love him. And I brought him specifically because I think you're going to dig him. Then that is the kind of thing that can sell it. And I know there was, I forget who it was, but they were opening for, I want to say it was Sammy Davis Jr., but it wasn't. It was somebody else. And the headline musician did come out and do that for them after they had a tough time at the first couple of gigs. That headliner came out and said, I brought this guy specifically because I think you're going to like him, and he's a friend of mine. Please pay attention. And then it started to flow much better from there. But without that, the focus just isn't there. And comedy is such a needy art form that we need every ounce of attention from the audience for them to stay on board.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your website. Where can people find out about you? Where can they hook up with you? Just what's your information?
Sure, yeah. So PhilJohnsonComedy.com. And in fact, if you just Google Phil Johnson Comedy, I will come up. Don't just Google Phil Johnson, because the other guy that comes up is an evangelical religious philosopher. And is it fun when his people find my website? But yeah, so PhilJohnsonComedy.com. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, mostly under Phil Johnson Comedy. So that's the easy way, is just Google Phil Johnson Comedy, and I come up everywhere.
All right, Phil, I have a very important question for you. Who would win a fight between Spider-Man and Batman?
I'm going to go Batman, just on sheer strength.
Okay. And do you consider yourself more a hunter or a gatherer?
I am definitely a gatherer.
Okay. What's the weirdest thing you've eaten in the last year?
Oh, the weirdest thing I've eaten in the last year. I don't know. My girlfriend is Singaporean. And so sometimes if we have dinner with her family, there's usually something on the table that still has a head attached to it. And that always creeps me out a little bit.
Dude, I went to Singapore many years ago, probably 20 years. It was a long time ago. I love Singapore. It's clean. It's so beautiful. Great city.
Yeah, I actually haven't been yet, because every time she went back, I didn't have time to go. But I'm looking forward to doing that. Yeah,
great country, man. I was so impressed with it. All right. Tell us a little bit about this song comedic thing we're going to hear in like 2 minutes here.
So the song is called Dodged a Bullet. And what it was is a friend was having a baby shower. And she said, oh, can you write a song for my baby about the miracle of childbearing? And I said, hey, you've never heard my songs before, have you? And so this is my song about the miracle of childbearing.
Okay. And of course, you've never been pregnant, correct?
I have not. Not that I know of. Not that I know of.
Yeah. What? Name a body part you wouldn't mind losing. Speaking of childbirth.
Yeah, right. I guess I could probably lose a toe or a foot and be okay with it. I need my hands. I need my voice.
Yeah. How about the biggest screw up in a kitchen in your life?
Oh, wow. I had one recently. I got one of those grocery store garlic breads, and I slipped it under the broiler in my oven. And 2 minutes later, I was like, okay, my oven's on fire. And now what do I do? And my girlfriend just walked in. She's like, why are you saying, oh, fire, fire, fire? And I was like, because the oven's on fire. So we managed to put that out. But yeah, that was a pretty nasty one that I did just recently.
It's a good thing she walked in time to save your ass, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It has.
We're going to hear your song now. And I wish you nothing but the best, and love to have you back on anytime, man.
For sure. Thanks a bunch.
No problem, Phil. All right, we're going to hear Phil's song right now.
Little baby, you were brought here through a miracle and a broken condom. I didn't know sperm carried knives, and somehow you got by the IUD, the diaphragm, the spermicide, and a morning after pill. But if Daddy hadn't been so drunk and Mommy hadn't run out of batteries, if Daddy pulled out on time instead of thinking about Angelina Jolie, then baby you wouldn't be here. You'd have been wiped up with a towel. Little baby, will your new life be a happy one? Or will you make your money putting sausage between your buns? Will you be a great man who brings peace to all the land? Or the type of guy that lures kids into a big white cargo van? And since you're pretty scary, really glad that you're not mine, and I guess I'm pretty happy that your mommy cheated on me this time. So go ahead and be just as evil as you wanna be. Hell yes, I dodged that bullet and I'm free.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Well, that was a wonderful song by Phil, and now we're going to talk about our second guest, Helene Byrne. Helene's got a very interesting story, and she's going to talk to us tonight about a very special cause. We're going to listen to her song a little bit, but I'd like to welcome to the show Helene Byrne. How you doing, Helene?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So tell our audience a little bit about your cause and what you're here to kind of talk about.
Well, I'm here to talk about Requiem and Remembrance Day, which will happen every second Sunday in March, starting on this March 8th, 2020. And the concept is to create a national sing-in against gun violence. And what we're seeking to do is to create a day of unity and healing by crowdsourcing love through our songs and remembrances. So this is something that every American who's interested can participate in. And what we hope to do is to amass, hundreds of thousands of voices, all for the same purpose on the same day. And we think that by doing that through song, that we can make a real positive impact on the lives of those who have been traumatized by gun violence.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. How did you go off on this road? How did you start being interested in this cause?
An interesting route to get there. I have sung all my life, various kinds of music. I was also happened to be a professional dancer when I was younger. But lately I've been singing a lot of classical music. And of course, requiems are, the workhorse of the classical, choral community. We sing a lot of them. So I know the value of them. And then I was watching TV one day about gun violence, and the host had this panel of experts, and she was like, but what can we do? What can we do? And I thought, well, I sing requiems. And that was kind of the seed of the idea that, America needs a requiem right now. And so that's how I got this idea started. And I started talking to people, and, everybody in the music world really liked the idea. And so I decided to create this nonprofit organization to promote Requiem and Remembrance Day.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your singing and your dancing. What do you think at this point in your life is your priority among those two?
Well, since I've got arthritis in my feet these days, I'm going to say singing.
Okay.
One of the hazards of dancing a lot when you're young is that, sometimes your joints don't hold up that well. So yeah, I'm in that position right now in my body. But what I have found with singing is that it's really fulfilling spiritually, and I've used it many times to help myself get through challenging times. And I'll give you an example. My friend Meg wrote a song called New Year's Day, and it's about finding hope. And one of the lyrics goes, all of this hurt is breaking apart like ice flowing down a river. And I turned to that song at one point of my life where I felt, I had been kind of mistreated by others, and I felt bad and I was hurt. And I found that singing that song, just, wow, my hurt was breaking apart like ice flowing down a river. And it really helped me.
Yeah, and I think that's the power to making music, listening to music. I think that's a very real thing. And I'm glad that you had that experience.
Right. And, we've done some research about what kinds of songs help people when they're dealing with grief and trauma. And they fall into 4 categories. The first are songs that speak directly to the loss and the pain of loss. And people are surprised when they hear that. And they're like, wait, but wouldn't singing a sad song make you feel sadder? But actually, when you're in that space, it helps you move through your sadness and experience your sadness in a different way. Another type of song that really helps people are tribute songs, songs that pay direct tribute to your missing loved ones. Another category of song that works really well are songs that offer friendship. Songs like Bridge Over Troubled Water or Lean on Me. Lean on Me is actually one of the most popular songs for helping people get through grief. And the last type of song are songs that offer hope. And that's what our anthem, We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder, that's a song that offers hope.
Yeah. Now, you talked a little bit. I'm going to ask you a question. You've been in 2 different arenas. How do you handle mistakes during a performance, whether it was back in the past with dancing or singing? How do you handle that?
Great question. Don't show it on your face. Don't stop. Don't even acknowledge that it happened and move on. Because and it's especially true in dance, nobody knows what the choreographer wants, what you were supposed to do. If you don't give it away that you made a mistake, nobody knows.
That's very true. Yeah, that's perfect advice. The first time I heard that, like 6 years ago when I was starting this road, I was like, wait, what? But the more it just got repeated everywhere, and it's just so true. You're right. Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah. And, in our project, in Requiem and Remembrance Day, there are no wrong notes. There are no, singing bad or singing flat or singing sharp, right?
Yeah.
Like all voices, you sing from your soul, and that is perfect for you.
Yeah, that's very true. In your songwriting, do you do music first, melody, lyrics? What is your process?
I don't actually write songs.
Oh, okay.
I'm here as a singer rather than a songwriter.
Got it. Okay.
But one of the things that I would like to talk about all the songwriters out there is that you too can be part of Requiem and Remembrance Day. In just 5 easy steps, you can get your group together. You can develop your playlist that works for you. You can decide where you want to have your singing. It can be in public, like in a park, in a plaza, campus quad. It can be in your living room, right? It can be pretty much anywhere. And then logistically, this is so easy these days. All you have to do is develop your Spotify playlist and, with a pair of wireless speakers and get your group together and you got yourself the singing.
Yeah. So you've got a bunch of 4 different questions here. Let's get to, so Wayne comments that the show must go on and the audience will know better, which is exactly what you said. Lexi is asking, is this a collective or what? I think she's referring to basically what your remembrance.
Right. That's a great question. Thanks, Lexi. What I've started is a nonprofit organization. And I've been in touch with actually over almost 4,000 choral and choir groups to letting them know about it to sing. And now I'm really working on more individuals or groups or people in the music industry to inspire them to do their own singing. Because the more voices we amass, the more effective our message will be.
Yeah, that's very true. So Wendy is asking, did you say all people can do this from anywhere?
Yes, that's the really great thing about this. So I just told you a quick little DIY, how to do your own singing. And let's say, the date doesn't work for me, or, I'd love to do it, but it just doesn't work. Well, you can do a recording of maybe our anthem or some other song that's meaningful for you, and you can upload it on your social media platform, and you can participate online. So you don't even have to be live to be part of this event.
Yeah, that's very interesting. In talking about your cause here, tell us a little bit about how important image is. How important is image, the ethics behind your image, your plan, all that. A lot of people, I don't think about that as much as they should.
Well, I know what you mean, but I have to say for this project, I've tried to be kind of neutral because I don't want to impose my worldview on others. I want people to hear about this and be inspired and maybe take our anthem and, stylistically turn it into something that works for them. So in terms of image, I'm really trying to be neutral about that. But I do understand that in most cases, in a business way, you don't want to be neutral. You want to actually have a really strong image and you want to stand out. But for me in this project, I went in the opposite direction.
And I think that's actually a good idea because, sometimes when you are pushy and trying to push people in a certain direction, I like being neutral, presenting both sides and just trying to respectfully get people to your side. I think if you're pushy and you do something dramatic, that doesn't always influence people. It actually pushes them away.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So Bryce has a question for you. Don't you need permits to do things in public?
I believe that if you're doing some kind of big kind of crowd, and you're holding, a march or something, you might. I don't think you need that for a vigil. I could be wrong about that, and most likely different places, towns might have different, requirements. But from what I can tell with other types of vigils, not. But best to check with your town, because if you want to get, 50 or 60 people all singing in a park, well, maybe that would require a permit.
Yeah, maybe it would. Yeah, I think it depends on your...
Great question. I want to thank you for that question. Very important question.
Tell us about a book that you read recently that you either loved or hated, that really had a strong reaction from you.
Wow. Well, right now, I've just started reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' The Water Dancer, and it is deeply moving. And it's one of those books that grabs you right away from the first sentence and can't let go. So that's going to be a book that I believe will be quite a journey as I read that book.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about where can people find out about you? What website do you have or social media that you want to share with us in the audience?
Well, I definitely want people to go to my website, which is called requiemandremembrancedday.org. And when you get there, you'll find out more about the program. And also, we have some free downloads. Especially, I want to encourage people to download, if you're not in a chorus and you're not in a group, download the DIY singing guide, because that will basically walk you through all the steps of how you can create a sing-in in your community.
Okay.
We also have a Facebook page, and, you can like us on Facebook.
Okay. Do you have any kind of idea? You said that you want this cause to kind of go worldwide, I assume, correct?
That would be great, but I'm aiming a little bit lower to just the United States right now.
Okay.
But let me tell you, all over the world, people have been traumatized by gun violence, notably Australia, France, Britain. So if you're listening to this in another country, of course you're welcome. The more voices, the better.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people don't realize how powerful their voices are. Exactly.
And that when we all sing together at the same time for the same purpose, that our power will grow exponentially.
Yeah.
I want to tie this back into what we're using this for. I just talked about power growing exponentially, but what we want to convey are two important things. For all of the people that have lost a loved one, we sing to pay tribute to your lost family member or loved one. And then on the other side, through our songs, we want to offer solace, support, and solidarity to the bereaved and the traumatized. That is our focus. Just that simple thing.
Okay. Anything you want to tell us? We're going to listen to your song here in a minute. Anything you want to tell us specifically about this song?
Well, we chose this song because it has a long history. It started actually as a slave field song, and it refers to Jacob's ladder in the Old Testament. There was a story about God opening the clouds up, and he puts down this big ladder, and the Jews who were enslaved at the time climbed the ladder to freedom. And so that's the root of this song. But it's been used in Christian hymnals since about 1850. Paul Robeson recorded it in the turn of the 20th century, and it was considered the first black civil rights song in America. It later had another evolution. Pete Seeger sang it in the 1930s and 40s. It became one of his theme songs, and it was used to galvanize worker rights and union rights. Lots of other people have recorded it, like Bruce Springsteen. So I thought, what better than to reach back through American history to this song that has had so many permutations, and now we can sing it for this source of the information that we want to get out and convey, because it really is a perfect song for that.
Okay, perfect. I really want to thank you for being on the show, and we're going to take a listen to your song right now, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Helene. All right, so we're going to listen to Helene's song right now, and I hope you all enjoy it.
We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. We are climbing Jacob's soldiers of the cross. Every round goes higher and higher. Every round goes higher. Do you think I make a Christian soldier? Do you think I make a Christian soldier? Do you think I make a Rise, shine, give God your glory. Rise, shine, give God your glory. Rise, shine, give God your glory. Soldiers of the cross, keep on climbing. We will surely make it. Keep on climbing. We will surely make it. Keep on climbing. We will make it. Soldiers of the
Well, I want to thank Helene for being on the show. I want to thank Phil for being on the show tonight. Wonderful songs that they both gave us. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in tonight. I know that your time is valuable, and I sincerely appreciate you spending some of it with me here tonight. To any listeners out there who may be artists, if you wish to be on the Songwriter Show, I invite you to submit the interview request form or just email me. I hope your own unique story gets heard around the world. My name is Sarantos. Please join me here every Tuesday night to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And tonight, I'm going to leave you with my new song that just came out called Cross That Line. Have you ever been in love with your best friend or someone you've known for a long time? Someone you're just so comfortable with? Sometimes people just fit. This song tells that story. It's a story of two close friends who want to be more than friends. They want to be lovers. They want to cross that line. The thoughts cross both their minds, probably a few 100 million times. They want to take the leap but are nervous. And there's an interesting tidbit about the song. I first wrote it watching NBC's Friends. I, like everyone else alive back then, wanted Ross and Rachel to be more than friends. I wanted them to cross that line. And if you've ever been in a similar situation, you're going to love the new music video coming out next week. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you have a wonderful night. And thank you again for tuning in to the Songwriter Show. I love you, and I appreciate you.
We've always been the best of friends, known each other since we were 10. Like an old pair of bookends, we'll be in sync till the end. But I want more than the friend zone we live in. I do. Can't go home again alone. Please give and please do. Thoughts cross both of our minds. Probably a few 100 million times. It's time to take the leap. Won't you take the leap with me? Come on, cross that line. Long's the road and short is the night. And I know this is the one fight. I'm not giving up cause it feels right. So walk with me into the light. But I want more than the friend zone we live in. I do. Can't go home again alone. Please give and please do. Thoughts cross both of our minds. Probably a few 100 million times. It's time to take the leap. Won't you take the leap with me? Come on, cross that line. Cross both of our minds. I know it has. Probably a few 100 million times. Yes, I know it has. It's time to take the leap. Won't you take the leap with me? Come on, cross that line. You know you want to. I want you to, and I want to.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.